Namaste everyone, welcome to second PUC theory class. We were discussing about atoms, right? We saw the Thomson's model and found that it is wrong because Rutherford did one experiment on scattering of alpha particles, right? We saw that experiment. Okay, so namaste everyone, hope you are doing well. Welcome to the class. And such a tiny atom, and how to study it, we can't see and we can't touch it, we can't feel it, but the collection of atoms make a molecule makes a particle, and all the matter we can see here. Our eye will not be able to see the electrons, protons, nucleus and all. But how did Rutherford come to that conclusion that there should be something concentrated region and electrons spread out and revolving around that concentrated region called nucleus? His alpha particle scattering model. And his own teacher Thomson gave the model, plum pudding model, where the fruit itself, the sphere itself is positively charged. Electrons are distributed here and there, you know it, and the whole atom is neutral. But the concept of electrons was brought by Thomson himself. He created that word, and electrons are negatively charged. But there was a negatively charged particle, and the people were aware of all those beam of electrons, but it was not named like electron earlier itself, right? There was an idea of electrons, but it was named as electron by Thomson. But Rutherford had a very clear vision that it shouldn't be so, because when alpha particles were made to hit onto the gold foil, which is very thin, and some of the alpha particles returned back. If it is so, alpha particle is such a tiny particle, if it has to be returned back from a particular point, in the atom almost all the mass and 100% charge is concentrated at a place called a nucleus, and electrons may be revolving around the nucleus, and most of the atom is an empty space except the nucleus. Nucleus is high dense object, and electrons are revolving around, because all the alpha particles didn't do so. Only few alpha particles returned back. That means the nucleus is not spread everywhere like a fruit. It is concentrated at a particular point. Okay, and most of the alpha particles went without scattering. Very few alpha particles went like this. That means they were going very close to the nucleus, and most of them went straight. That's why the nucleus is very small. And electrons are revolving around the nucleus in orbits, not definite orbits, in certain orbits according to their energy. So where does Rutherford fail? He was not able to explain a particular thing, that is, atom is stable, right? Now we know that atom is stable. It doesn't change its characteristic now and then. In the sense, its structure, it doesn't change its structure every minute. But according to Rutherford, if an electron is revolving around the nucleus, and according to his explanation, suppose electron loses energy by some means, then its orbit, the radius of the orbit should go on decreasing. If it continuously loses energy, because classical theory says that energy is absorbed and given in the form, not form of discrete values, continuous form of energy. And if an electron wants to absorb energy, any energy it can absorb. But actual fact is not so. So Rutherford applied classical theory, and if an electron goes on decreasing, losing its energy, its orbit will shrink and shrink and shrink. Finally, it will fall to the nucleus at the end. Suppose this is the nucleus, and if you find an electron revolving around the nucleus here, and if it suppose loses energy, finally it falls to the nucleus. So its path should be spiral instead of circular. That means one day or other, all the electrons should be found inside the nucleus. They may lose energy and they will fall to the nucleus. As if a satellite, if it loses energy, any satellite doesn't fall to the earth like this. It goes round and round and round and finally hits the earth. Okay, but reality is not so. All the atoms are stable. Stability of the atom is not explained by Rutherford's model. According to the model, it is the continuous energy absorbed by an electron or emitted by electron. If an electron emits continuous form of energy, it will lose energy and it will go on reducing its radius, finally fall to the nucleus. So atom is not stable, but it is not so. Stability of the atom is not clearly explained in Rutherford's model. Now this point is taken up by Niels Bohr. He said, there is something wrong. Everything is correct. If electron revolves around the nucleus in a certain orbit, you need a centripetal force. For any circular motion, you need a centripetal force. That is given by the electrostatic force of attraction. Electrostatic force of attraction means the force of attraction between the positively charged particle and negatively charged particle which are at rest. So if that acts like a centripetal force, then an electron can revolve around the nucleus. That part is correct. In the whole atom, almost all the mass and the entire positive charge is concentrated at the center part called nucleus. Right. That is also correct. Electrons are revolving around the nucleus. Right. And electrons are negative charge. All those things are right. One thing is wrong. That is, electron cannot revolve around the nucleus in arbitrary orbits wherever they want. Not possible. As if we have structured roads outside, right? If you want to drive a vehicle, there is a road. You have to drive on the road only. You can't say that I have a costly car, I will drive, wherever I drive there should be a road. No, not like that. You have to go reverse way. Wherever there is road, you have to drive. You have to go in the reverse way. Now imagine that road or a path. That path will be permanent. You can drive the vehicle whenever you want. And Bohr says, so there is a nucleus positively charged because they are made up of protons and all. That's a later development. And nucleus is positively charged. That is told by Rutherford. Now if an electron is revolving around the nucleus in a circular path, say again circular as told by Niels Bohr also, right? Niels Bohr, right? Niels Bohr. Okay. Now, if the electron is revolving around a nucleus like this, say it is moving like this. This is the tangential speed. You know that if you tie a stone to a thread and rotate it like this, at any moment the stone will be moving in the tangential direction, like this, like this. Suppose if you want to know whether it is moving in the tangential direction or not, leave the thread at a particular moment. Will it continue to move in the circular path? No, it will move in the tangential direction. How are the water molecules thrown away from a cycle tire if it is wet in the rainy season? In the rainy season, that cycle tire, when it rotates faster, or any vehicle tire, how will be the water molecules thrown away? Tangentially, outside. So because as soon as the force of attraction between that water molecule and the tire is less, it will be thrown away tangentially. So this is the speed of the electron. Electron is here and this is the direction. Say this is the radius of the circular path. Now Niels Bohr says it is not any path electron can travel. There are some prescribed path. There only the electrons will travel. Electrons revolve around the nucleus in a definite orbit or in prescribed orbits called stationary orbits. What do you mean by stationary orbit? Stationary means you have a stationary in your college, right? Stationary means one which is there only, it doesn't move, right? It is at rest with respect to the surroundings. These orbits are also stationary. They don't change their positions. There are some prescribed orbits. There are some prescribed roads. You have to drive your vehicle on the road. You can't create your own road and drive the vehicle whenever you want. Electron cannot revolve around in any orbit. It has to go in a particular orbit. There are prescribed orbits. Sir, how to select these orbits? Can an electron revolve around the nucleus in a particular orbit, which I assume? Okay, it can revolve around in an orbit which you assume, provided your assumption is correct, right? If your assumption is correct. What is the assumption, sir? If it has to be correct and if it has to be wrong, what is the type of assumption I have to make? Bohr says, if you are choosing a path for the electron, suppose I want to put an electron here, I would like to put an electron here. I want an electron at a particular distance from the nucleus and it has to revolve around the nucleus. That's my wish, right? But that wish, whether it is, that wish is permitted or not. Whether you can expect an electron, whether you can see an electron actually revolving in that path or not. Bohr says, if you want an electron to move in a particular orbit, then there are conditions. You calculate the angular momentum of the electron. What do you mean by angular momentum? What do you mean by linear momentum? Linear momentum means the mass into velocity, right? It's a vector quantity and it has a particular direction. Mass into velocity is momentum, and because of velocity it is a vector quantity, and its unit is kg meter per second. A body of 10 kg moving with the 2 meters per second has 20 kg meter per second momentum. More the mass of the body, more will be the momentum, right? So when one marble goes and hits to another marble, the second marble is a larger one, it moves little bit lesser. It doesn't move as much as the smaller marble, because smaller marble being lighter will have more velocity. When it hits the larger marble being heavier takes smaller velocity. So that m into v is same. Bullet fired from a gun. Bullet moves faster because its mass is less, and gun moves back with lesser velocity because its mass is more. That's why in order to control the gun, it is made heavier and heavier so that its recoil velocity will be less. Suppose you construct a gun and a bullet which are of same mass, what will happen? Right, sir, we have a bullet, special bullet, and whose mass is same as that of the gun, and both are lighter. What will happen? If you fire a bullet from the gun, with what speed the bullet moves forward, with the same speed gun will move back, because its mass is same. So you will have two persons hit at the same time within one bullet. One bullet will finish, another one gun will finish, right? So it should not be so. The gun which is held by the person who is shooting shouldn't disturb or hurt the person. If it has to be so, then the gun should be as heavier as possible, so that its velocity is lesser and lesser, recoil velocity, because of mass, because both will have the same momentum. Okay, that is linear momentum. What about angular momentum? Any object which changes the angular position will have angular momentum. Take a rotating fan, it will have angular momentum. Take a particle moving in a circular path, it will have an angular momentum. How do you calculate the angular momentum of a stone tied to a string and rotated like this? It is moment of momentum is called angular momentum, right? Moment of momentum is called angular momentum. Don't say that, sir, I can understand all this momentum and angular momentum very clearly, sir. Don't say it like that. This is the first PUC portion. You should have already known this, right? You are recalling the things what you have already studied. Moment of momentum is called angular momentum. What is moment of momentum? Remember, in physics, moment is perpendicular distance. It is a moment vector. It is a position vector. It is a distance, displacement. Okay, moment of momentum. For example, if there is a stone rotating in a circular path with a position vector r, that is the radius itself. When it is moving in a circular path, radius itself is the position vector. Okay, how do you calculate the moment of momentum? Suppose it's moving the velocity v, if its mass is m, moment of momentum, I will just write the magnitude, I don't write the vector. Of course, I can write the vector also. Moment of momentum is called angular momentum L, moment of momentum. This is angular momentum. L equal to mvr. mv is momentum, because it is a particle moving with the velocity. At any position, its direction may keep on changing. Velocity vector may change, but magnitude doesn't change. Magnitude is same everywhere. So moment of momentum is called angular momentum. So mvr. This is angular momentum. Now come to our case. Our friend electron is moving in a circular path according to Niels Bohr and Rutherford. They are moving in a circular path. And Rutherford said electron can move in any circular orbit. Wherever it wants, it can have its own radius, as if you drive a vehicle on the ground. Suppose you are in a cricket ground, you are given a vehicle, a very good car, you are asked to drive. Now you need not worry, you need not see where there is road, right? Because the whole ground itself is the road. You can drive wherever you want. You can turn the steering wherever you want, till the boundary of the ground, right? Beyond the boundary you must think of. But as long as you are within the ground, you can drive wherever you are. That is Rutherford's idea. It can have any path, but Niels Bohr says that Bohr's idea is it cannot have any prescribed path. It should have some. It cannot have any path. It should have some prescribed path, some exact path. And how do you select that exact path? Of course, Niels Bohr gives a lot of explanation for it and mathematical proof also. And he says the angular momentum of the electron must be equal to nh by 2 pi. Angular momentum, moment of momentum must be equal to nh by 2 pi. right? Now you raise the same question. Sir, Bohr sir, can I assume an orbit for the electron in this particular distance? Sorry, there is a nucleus. Of course, nucleus and atom is not such as large as I show, but still an imagination. There is a nucleus and there is an electron revolving around the nucleus, and there is a particular position vector, there is a distance. Sir, can I assume an orbit here? Okay, let us check your orbit is correct or not. Measure this distance r. Now there should be a minimum speed for the electron to revolve around, otherwise it will collapse, right? So you should give a minimum speed for the electron. If the speed is more, it will be thrown away, and if the speed is less, it will fall to the nucleus. So there should be a minimum speed given. Try to calculate that minimum speed. For example, if you tie a stone and rotate, there should be a minimum speed with which you have to turn, otherwise it won't rotate. Otherwise gravitational force will be predominant and it will pull it back. Okay, so there is a minimum speed. Mass of electron you know, right? Mass of electron is 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 31 kg, and the velocity with which you have to turn, you fix it a particular value, and radius you have fixed, and you want to have a electron revolving around the orbit like this. Calculate. If it is equal to 1h by 2 pi, you know what is h? 6.6 into 10 to the power minus 34. N equal to 1 you put. If it is equal to 1h by 2 pi, try to calculate this and calculate 1h by 2 pi. 1 into 6.6 into 10 to the power minus 34, 2 into 3.14. Calculate this and this. If they are equal, then this is possible. It is the first orbit. No sir, they are not equal. This is larger and this is smaller, sir. Okay, you calculate h by 2 pi and multiply it by 2. Whether now they are equal? No sir, they are not equal. Still this answer is greater. Okay, multiply h by 2 pi by 3. Whether this is equal? Yes sir, this is equal to 3h by 2 pi is exactly equal to whatever I have calculated MVR. Then it is the third orbit. Sir, can I have an orbit for the electron here? I would like an electron to travel in this path, sir. Calculate r. Calculate the speed with which it has to be moving. Substitute the mass, substitute the velocity, substitute the r value, calculate the angular momentum. Sir, it is neither equal to 1h by 2 pi, nor equal to 2h by 2 pi, not even 3h by 2 pi. It is not equal to any nh by 2 pi, sir. N ranging from 1, 2, 3, whole numbers, integers. Sir, it is equal to 0.3h by 2 pi, sir. Not possible. It is not possible. You can't have an orbit there. Niels Bohr says an electron can have an orbit, or it can move in a particular orbit called stationary orbits, where the angular momentum of the electron must be an exact integral multiple of h by 2 pi. If it is an integral multiple of h by 2 pi, then that path is possible, right? If the width of the road is at least equal to the width of the vehicle, you can pass. If the width of the road is equal to the multiple of the integral multiple of the width of the vehicle, you can pass. If the width of the road is less than the width of the vehicle, you can't. Something like that here. The angular momentum of the electron must be exactly equal to nh by 2 pi, an integral multiple of h by 2 pi. Of course, you may ask, how did Bohr arrive at this equation? After a long derivation, no doubt he has worked on this, but now we are studying only this one. So these orbits are possible. That means you cannot assume orbits wherever you want. There are some rules which are governing the whole thing here. See, how did science evolve, and finally we came to a conclusion that you can't have continuous energy values. Electrons can have only prescribed energies, right? So you can't assume any energy for electron, any path for electron. It should have some prescribed orbits. So this is a major change made by Bohr in describing his model. So Bohr's model says almost all the mass, the entire positive charge is concentrated in the central part called nucleus. Electrons revolve around the nucleus in definite orbits, and the centripetal force is given by the electrostatic force of attraction between the positively charged nucleus and the negatively charged electron. Everything same as Rutherford. Now the special one comes. Electrons revolve around the nucleus only in prescribed orbits. They are called stationary orbits. What are stationary orbits? Stationary orbits are those the stationary orbits are those where the angular momentum of the electron must be an integral multiple of h by 2 pi. You might have studied this in chemistry also. Bohr model, you will get it in chemistry also. Same Bohr model, right? We can study it in chemistry, in physics. No different Bohrs, same Bohr, Niels Bohr. Right. If that condition is satisfied, then that path is possible. Sir, I want can I have an electron here? So calculate what is the radius, what is the mass of electron. Of course, this doesn't change. Velocity with which it has to travel here. Multiply them. If it is equal to 9h by 2 pi, it should be the 9th orbit. So n equal to 1 corresponds to the innermost orbit, first orbit. N equal to 2. When MVR is equal to 2h by 2 pi, you are in the second orbit. When MVR is equal to 3h by 2 pi, you are in the third orbit, like that. So that product is equal to how many h by 2 pi? That orbit is the orbit of electron, that number, because there are only that prescribed orbits. Okay. So this is the Bohr's postulate. You have many postulates, you can understand it. This is the main postulate, because without this Bohr couldn't explain why the atom is stable. Right? This gives the reason why the atom is stable, and that part is not explained by Rutherford. Why atom is stable? Electrons can revolve only in prescribed orbits called stationary orbits. Stationary orbits are those where angular momentum of the electron MVR is equal to nh by 2 pi. This is called Bohr's quantization rule. Now we have come to quantization part. What do you mean by quantization rule? Quantization means only this is possible. This is possible, this is possible, in between not possible. That is not continuous. There are no continuous values. There are prescribed values. So if the electron absorbs energy, only this much. If it gives energy, only this much. In between, it doesn't give and it doesn't absorb. That is what is called quantum theory. You can have only prescribed values. As if you purchase balls from the shop. You can purchase only 1 ball or 2 balls or 3 balls. You can't purchase 2.33 balls. You can't purchase 5.23 packets of milk from the shop. Not allowed. Similarly, here electrons can have only prescribed forms of energies, so prescribed paths, orbits. And he calls those orbits as stationary orbits as well as non-radiating orbits. Non-radiating orbits. What are non-radiating orbits? As long as electron is in that orbit. For example, I fix an orbit. Say, sir, from the nucleus, there is an orbit where when the electron is made to move with a velocity v and having mass m, the angular momentum MVR is equal to 3h by 2 pi, say. N is 3. That means it should be the third orbit, right? In between you will have 2 orbits, somewhere here and somewhere here. Somewhere you should have 2 orbits. Accordingly, in the first orbit it should be equal to 1h by 2 pi, and second orbit it should be MVR must be equal to 2h by 2 pi. And when I go to the second orbit and third orbit and first orbit, this v goes on changing, r goes on changing, right? So velocity and radius will keep on changing. So we will get the different answer accordingly, 1h by 2 pi, 2h by 2 pi. Now, why it is non-radiating orbit? Because as long as electron is in the prescribed orbit, it will not lose energy. It will never lose energy as long as it is in the stationary orbit and that prescribed orbit. Suppose it loses energy, it will not continue in that orbit. As long as electrons are in the stationary orbit, they never lose energy. They are non-radiating orbits. Non-radiating means they don't give energy in the form of light or any radiation. Suppose they give, they will never move in that energy, in the dot orbit, they will change the orbits. Suppose an electron loses energy in the form of electromagnetic radiation, it will never continue in that orbit, it suddenly comes to the inner orbit, say n equal to 2, second orbit, it jumps here, because it has lost energy. It is as if you are going on a picnic, say, by the time you reach a town, it is already 7 o'clock. Evening. What you will do? You are in a confusion now, whether to go to the next town or will stay here. Imagine that next town is 70 kilometers away, and in between there is nothing in between. No town, nothing, no people, and it is totally dark, and if you start moving in your car, you must reach the next town. That is next stationary orbit. In between you don't have anything. There may be robbers in between, there may be something else, so dacoits, right? So you have to make a decision now. What? If you get a chance of staying in the next town, and if you get any hotel or anything in the next town, you can move. If you don't have any facility there in the next town, better you stay here. You have to make either of the two decisions. So if you get a lodge in the next town, you can better start. And if you have enough fuel in your car, and if you are very good in driving, within 2 hours you can reach. And if you don't have any staying conditions there, better you stay here only. Electrons do the same decision. If they have some energy, they will continue to move in the orbit. That is enough. That energy is enough for them in that orbit. If they lose energy, definitely they will lose that much of energy which is and the remaining energy must be suitable for next orbit. They will lose the energy and they will come to the next orbit. When they lose the energy, they take care that much of energy which is suitable for the next orbit is enough. They don't lose all the energy and return back to the nucleus. They don't do so. So, when an electron jumps from higher energy level, say initial energy level EI, to the final energy level EF, it loses that energy EI minus EF in the form of radiation, and that is emitted in the form of electromagnetic radiation H nu. That means if there are prescribed orbits, that is definite. Whatever the difference of energy is got, it will lose. For example, I will simply roughly give you an example. Suppose the energy of the electron, and remember, electron is having all negative energies. Why? It is bound to the nucleus. It is like a person who is having 1 crore rupees, right? Remember, it is 1 crore rupees loan. He is bound to the bank, and he is having negative wealth. His wealth is not positive. It is of bank, and he has to pay, and he is bound to the bank. Bank manager will not allow him to go to this outside the nation, right? For foreign, right? He can't have foreign tour. He should be within the town, and he should be reporting to the bank every now and then and paying the loan every month. He is bound. His 1 crore rupees is negative, it is not positive. Similarly, electron is bound to the nucleus, so it is always under the control of the nucleus. That means, suppose this energy is minus 12 electron volt. This energy is minus 18 electron volt. Suppose an electron, so this is more, right? Sorry. This is minus 18 and this is minus 12. This is minus 12 electron volt and this is minus 8. How much I have written? Minus 12 and minus 8. Okay. I don't know how much I have written. Okay, minus 12 and minus 8. Minus 8 is what I can say. Yeah, this is greater compared to minus 12. Is it so? Minus 8 electron volt is greater than minus 12 electron volt. Sir, why it is so, sir? Because it is negative, right? Having 1 crore loan is worst condition. Having 20 lakhs loan is a better condition. Minus 20 lakhs is better than minus 100 lakhs, right? Minus 1 crore. Am I right? So minus 20 lakhs is better. Minus 20 lakhs is having zero loan. Beggar is better than a person who is having 1 crore loan, because beggar is free from all the banks. He need not ask bank manager to go here and there. He is having no loan, nothing, and he is free. He may not be having positive wealth, but 0 is better than minus 1 crore. Similarly, here, minus 12 volt is minus 12 and minus 8. Did I go wrong? No. This should be, so here it should be more energy. Outside energy should be more. Yeah, this is minus 12. What I have written in the beginning is correct. Minus 8 electron volt. Yes. This is greater, this is smaller. Yes, now it is correct. Minus 8 electron volt is greater in the outside energy state. Minus 12 electron volt is lesser in the inner energy state. This is more bound, this is less bound, right? Minus 12 electron volt. More bound. This is less bound, correct? Now it is proper. Now, when the electron jumps from this orbit to this orbit, what is the energy emitted? The energy emitted is higher minus lower. Minus 8 minus of minus 12, that is plus 12 minus 8. 4 electron volt of energy is emitted, EI minus EF. So better you understand that negative concept. Bound energy. as the electron absorbs energy, okay, so as it jumps from the higher energy, initial energy level EI to the final energy level EF, EI minus EF must be given in the form of radiation. So what is EI minus EF? Minus 8 minus or minus 12. This is higher, this is lower. 12 minus 8, 4. 4 electron volt is given out. Suppose it absorbs energy, goes to the higher energy level. If it absorbs energy, goes to the higher energy level. That means in between, suppose this is n equal to 1 and n equal to 2. This is the first orbit, stationary orbit, and this is the second stationary orbit. In between you don't have any orbits at all. Not possible, because if you assume an orbit like with yourself, then angular momentum will not be equal to either 1h by 2 pi or 2h by 2 pi. It may be equal to 1.5h by 2 pi. That is not possible. N can have only 1, 2, 3 integral values. So if it jumps back to this energy level, it goes here. And here is a stationary orbit which is safe, and it continues the journey like this. Sir, while losing, won't it lose 3.5 electron volt energy and keep some more energy with it? No, because if it loses 3.5 electron volts of energy, it reaches here, there is no orbit at all. If you travel only for 50 kilometers, you won't reach to a city, another city. It is a very dangerous condition. You will be somewhere in between, and thieves may attack you. So either you have to be here in this town or that town. Only two options. Similarly, electron, if it loses energy, it goes to another non-radiating orbit, maybe of lesser energy, whatever it is. So when the electron loses energy, it jumps from one non-radiating orbit to another non-radiating orbit, and it is safe in another non-radiating orbit. Maybe it's energy less, but it is not allowed to go to the nucleus. So what Rutherford said was, if an electron loses energy, it can lose any amount of energy. So if it continuously goes on losing energy, its path becomes spiral and it finally falls to the nucleus. Such case cannot happen because in Bohr's theory, electrons select their own orbits and they move in only stationary orbits. As long as they are in the stationary orbits, they do not lose energy. That is why they are called non-radiating orbits. And once if it loses energy, it will never continue in that orbit. It will go to another inner orbit and be safe and revolving around in that stationary orbit. And it loses energy which fits for the difference of this energy. So if an electron in this orbit loses energy, it loses exactly 4 electron volts of energy and comes to this orbit. Because there is a stationary orbit, right? Suppose you fall from the second floor, definitely you will be on the ground because that is the safest place, and you won't fall below the ground, right? So unless there are some arrangements, right? So wherever be the floors, the worst condition is you will be on the ground, right, if you fall. So that is the most stable position, right, on the ground, and further you won't fall. Similarly here, it falls to the next stable position. Here it continues. While absorbing, suppose an electron is found here. Its energy is how much? Minus 12 electron volt, which is more bound. This is less bound, minus 8 electron volt. You call this electron. Do you want to go to the second energy level? Yes, sir, I want to go to the next energy level. Do you want energy for that? Yes, sir, I need energy. Please give me. Electron says. But you say, you are a little bit stingy. I don't give you 4 electron volt of energy. I will give you 3 electron volt of energy. Will you go? Electron says, go away, I don't want, because if I want to go to the next stable energy level, next non-radiating orbit, it needs at least plus 4 electron volt of energy. By taking plus 4 electron volt of energy, minus 12 becomes minus 12 plus 8, minus 12 plus 4, minus 12 plus 4 means, where is that minus 12 I have written? Minus 12 here, plus 4 becomes minus 8, and it can come here. If you give energy which is in between less than 4 electron volt, it rejects it completely and it doesn't move back to the second energy level at all. It continues to move in this orbit. That means electrons will absorb the energy only in the form of quanta. What do you mean by quanta? Packets. Either you give this packet of energy, it will move. Otherwise it will reject. Only when you are given 70 rupees, you will go to your grandma's house. Otherwise, you will reject it. 70 rupees is the money needed to go to your grandma's house, right? It is to come out of the material. Electrons need an energy to come out of the metal. That is why quanta, we say quanta of energy, quantum theory. So electrons, since they have prescribed orbits, they can, suppose there are no prescribed orbits, if you can, if the electron can move anywhere that it wants, then even if you give a small amount of energy, it will absorb the energy and increase the orbit, right? And little more energy, again another orbit. But such cases are not found. That's what Bohr says. So he uses quantum approach, fixed values. So electron absorbs energy from the lower energy state, and it absorbs that much energy which is needed to go to the next energy state, then only it moves, right? So either if there is a person inside the well, and you are outside the well, and you are very generous, and you are always a good social worker, you want to put him out, what you will do? You will give that much of energy which is needed to put him out. Or will you come to the conclusion that I have only this much of energy, I will pull you halfway and I will leave you. Rest of the thing, if let somebody help you. If you do so, when you put him in the halfway, again he will fall to the ground. Instead, better not to help him so that he is safe inside, right? Somebody else will come and help him. So if you want to help him, you have to help to the maximum. What do you mean by maximum? Take him, remove him from the well. That is the best way. Otherwise, leave him. Similarly, electrons. If you give that much of energy which is needed to go to the next energy level, then only they will absorb it. Otherwise, they will reject it. So that is what is the meaning of the sentence. Energies are absorbed and released only in the form of quanta. A supplier of milk will give exact number of packets to the shop, and a customer will purchase exact number of packets from the shop. Number may be different, but the customer will give 100 packets today to a shop. You will purchase 2 packets. So everything should be talked in terms of integers, and there is nothing like 5.33, 2.75, fractions doesn't exist here. So energies are absorbed and energies are given by the electrons in the form of packets. There are prescribed values, and as long as electrons are in the prescribed orbits, they are called non-radiating orbits. They don't lose energy. If they lose energy, they move from one non-radiating orbit to another non-radiating orbit, and only that much energy is lost. And if they gain energy, that difference of energy is gained and they go to another non-radiating orbits. So non-radiating orbits or stationary orbits are those where angular momentum is satisfied. Angular momentum condition mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. Remember, this condition is not given by Rutherford. He was not able to explain the stability of the atom. Here the atom is very stable and electron cannot go to the nucleus now, because it has some prescribed orbits. So you have a home for you, right? So you have a very good home where your father and mother live together with you, and they love you very much, they take care of you. So when you have so, you can't, with a great confidence you come to college. You study in college because you have in mind that if you are going out of the college, definitely you have your home waiting for you, right? You go to your home. So 2 energy levels are already fixed. So you are not having any worries, either home or college or home. At both the places you are safe. You have that in your mind. So you will be having a happy like that. Similarly here, electrons will only jump from one fixed orbit to another fixed orbit. They don't move here and there as they want. That is what is called quantum approach. Okay, so all these postulates may be asked. So first postulate, electrons are moving in prescribed orbits called non-radiating orbits. Non-radiating orbits are those where the angular momentum of the electron is nh by 2 pi, mvr, moment of momentum, is equal to nh by 2 pi. And suppose an electron loses energy, then it goes to the next radiating orbits, inner radiating orbits, and there it is again revolving around with the safest energy, and the difference of energy ei minus ef is given as radiation h nu, and all these phenomena. And as long as an electron is in the non-radiating orbit, it doesn't lose energy, and the centripetal force is provided by the electrostatic force of attraction between positively charged nucleus and negatively charged electron. So Bohr gives a very good explanation, and the structure of atom is finalized. There is a central part called nucleus, and there are electrons revolving around the nucleus. Now Bohr doesn't stop there only. He tries to give different values or different, he tries to find out the different possible values, like what may be the velocity of the electron if it is in the first orbit, what may be the radius of the electron if it is in the third orbit, what may be the energy of the electron in the fifth orbit. All these things were found out, and he takes some different examples. And before going to that, that every atom is characterized by two numbers, right? Suppose X is an atom, ZXA, right? What is the Z? Number of protons, right? What is this? Protons plus neutrons. We call them as nucleons because both are found in nucleus. So every nucleus is characterized by this number. You know it. Every nucleus is characterized by Z and A. Z represents the number of protons and A represents the number of protons plus neutrons, nucleons. But together they are called nucleons. People in India, Indians, right? Similarly, people in nucleus, nucleons. Protons. Sir, how do you get the number of neutrons only? Subtract A minus Z. Protons plus neutrons minus protons. It gives the number of neutrons. A minus Z gives the number of neutrons. Now you consider a nucleus of atomic number Z. Means there are many protons, Z protons. Say helium, for example, 2He4. Helium contains how many protons? 2 protons. Okay, how many protons inside the nucleus? They themselves are the protons inside the nucleus, 2 protons. Remaining neutrons, 2, because it is 4 minus 2. Out of 4, 2 are protons. That number is included here. Remaining is 2. They are the neutrons. Okay, there are 2 protons. So what is the charge of nucleus? Number of protons into charge of each proton. You know that charge of proton and charge of electron are almost, not almost, exactly equal. But one is positive, another is negative. Only their natures are different. They have different polarity. One is plus, another is minus. So plus Ze, where E is the magnitude of charge of electron, 1.602 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb. You might have, I have been saying that you have to read the first chapter and you have to see that video clearly. Charge of each electron is 1.6 into 10 to the minus 19 coulomb. That is the easiest particle which can be transferred from one body to another. Okay, plus Ze. Suppose there is an electron, negatively charged, moving with a speed v, and it is situated at a distance r from the nucleus. Now I am going to derive a very small derivation. Now let us try to find out an equation for radius of the circular orbit. Right? Now and we will derive it by using Bohr's postulates. What are the Bohr's postulates? According to Niels Bohr, the electron should move in a particular orbit so that its angular momentum is given by mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi. And another condition is the electrostatic force between the negatively charged electron and the positively charged nucleus must act like a centripetal force. So let us write the formula for centripetal force. mv squared by r is equal to, if v is the speed of the electron in that particular orbit, then mv squared by r must be equal to nh by 2 pi. mv squared by r is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. You know the electrostatic force between two charges q1 and q2 separated by a certain distance. Electrostatic force is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught magnitude of q1, magnitude of q2 by r squared. So here magnitude of q1 is Ze into magnitude of 2 is another charge is q2 is E divided by distance squared, right? So they are separated by a distance r. One is plus Ze, another is E. Okay, now one r gets cancelled here, right? Now we will substitute for this and we will use the equation for the condition of that quantization rule. Angular momentum of the electron, moment of momentum must be equal to nh by 2 pi. We will take v from this. V is equal to nh by 2 pi m. Let us try to substitute this here. So put this here. When you put this here, what you will get? V square is n square h square 4 pi m square. 4 pi square m square. Right? n square h square 4 pi square m square. That is into m, which we are substituting here. Substituting this v here, mv square by r has been cancelled with this. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. You must be very thorough with this Coulomb's inverse square law. I hope you have followed that. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Z square, Z is the atomic number, we have seen what is atomic number, Z square divided by R square, R is here, 1 R square has been cancelled. Now I want to get an equation for R from this, where is mvr is equal to nh by 2 pi, and something is missing here, yes, R is missing, here is an R, V is equal to nh by 2 pi mr, where is R square after squaring it, right, V square, V square, R square, n square, h square divided by 4 pi square, m square, R square, yes. What is now radius? So can I cancel one R is square here and this R? But this R I need. I will bring this R here, remaining things this side. So on the right hand side I have R, this one. Then this one, 4 pi epsilon naught. The whole thing here, n square, h square divided by, and this z square to the denominator, 4 pi square, m square, and R square, 1 R has cancelled and I have brought it here. Z square is remaining, Z square, right? Z square here, 4 pi square m square here, and mn square h squared, and this 4 pi epsilon. Cancel the things. 1 pi remains here, 1 pi gets cancelled. Then what else? M square, 1 m remains here, 1 m cancels. And so what is the answer? Radius is equal to epsilon naught n square h square divided by pi m z square. This is the formula for the radius, and we will analyze this formula, right? It is not over, I have to analyze it. Radius is directly proportional to the quantum number n. What does n represent? N represents the number of the orbit, quantization orbit. You can have nh by 2 pi, n equal to 1, 1h by 2 pi. You can have n equal to 2, 2h by 2 pi. They are called quantum numbers, the values which give you exact multiples of energies. It is directly proportional to n square. That means as you move to the outer and outer orbits, radius goes on increasing. So all those things we will see that. Actually in the derivation, in the textbook, there is no Z, because Bohr applies all his theory to the smallest atom, simplest atom, that is hydrogen, containing 1 proton and electron revolving around the nucleus. And so Z is 1. Z is already made 1 and it is derived. I will derive it again without Z, right? But better you study the derivation with the Z. Why? In the entrance exam, they will change this Z and they will ask you what is the radius. How does radius depend on Z? They will ask you. For simple atoms which are hydrogen-like atoms. So, but in the theory exam, you better not write Z, but study with Z, because in the exam you can leave Z, no problem. But when a Z is needed, it becomes difficult. So atomic number we will keep it, but while writing it for the exam, we will leave it. Okay, that you will get that idea later, because you are going to derive, using these two equations, you are going to derive 4 equations. Very, very easy derivations, but this should be very clear. So we will meet with the same derivation and the analysis of this formula and some more derivations in the next class. Thanks for watching the video. Subscribe my channel, because you will get the information about what I have uploaded and what I have given new videos, right? So subscribe my channel, take care of your health, keep reading, don't waste time. Hope all these 3 classes are helping you. Thank you. We will meet in the next class.